Well, hello everybody and welcome back into the Bear's Den. It is week 10 with these AeroGardens. I guess week 8 for the AeroGarden Classic and week 10 for the new version of the Elite. But either way, things are coming along really well. I've already cranked off the first batch of seedlings. I've got a whole new set of seeds in the Classic there, so let's take a look at that. And then I'll show you how things are trucking along with those first transplants, because I am just blown away by the pepper starts this year. Super excited. So glad I finally got around to getting one of these. Let's get started. So here we have the AeroGarden Classic, where right now I've got 3 of the orange habaneros that did come up, and this floppy looking thing over here is 6 days into being a cutting from the bad brains. But I've also got fungus gnats that seem to have found their way up. So far no aphids, but might be time to get some of those safer sticky traps. Got some, let's see, poppies that I started here, and it looks like we do have some sprouting up in that one. Maybe a couple sprouting up in that one already too, so that's excellent. Most of these in the back are still orange habs that I was kind of hoping would sprout, but it kind of looks like a no-go. Nothing in these 3 in the center because I still haven't put a cap or a piece of tape or anything on there yet, but I'm going to. Let's see, down here trying to start some marigolds because I thought that would be nice. And we've got these 4 are echinacea that I'm trying to start for shocks. And these 4 here are sage because I figure, you know, that takes forever to sprout. Might as well throw it in the AeroGarden and see if we can give it a bit of a boost, and, you know, maybe something good will come of it. And then there's nothing in the back there because I was hoping I'd get some more orange habs to sprout, but never did. So, yeah, so far it looks like the poppies are going to be my first sprouts from the newest seeds. Marigolds are kind of tricky to shove into these little pods, so I don't know. Those may sprout for me, those may not, but whatever. However, let's look at this. Beside it here we've got the Elite, that kind of silvery gray garden that I've got going. And move this basil here. We'll get to the basil tasting a little later on here. I took the scissors and whacked away quite a few of the larger leaves that were on this half of the plant, although you can't really tell because of the regrowth since then. And I pulled out a couple of the stems, hence we've got this cutting here. And actually, way over here, I took out the basil cutting and I put in another Bad Brains pepper. Got this one with a little dome top. Hopefully one of those 2 will root. Like I say, it's been 6 days. Nothing coming up just yet. But, you know, it's only been 6 days. I'm prepared to wait as long as it does eventually root. However, I got tons of flower starts that have been coming up on this. Now, I don't know if they were there or starting before I did the trim or not, but I know that since I did the trim, it's sure a lot easier to see them just popping out all over the place. I counted yesterday, and I came up with at least 10 so far, but it looks like I could probably get a lot higher than that if I really wanted to dive into it. That is absolutely amazing. Week 10, Bad Brains seed, you know, 10 weeks ago, and here we go. It's putting on, it's got those flower starts. I am so impressed by this. I've never had results like this in my pepper growing life, and I am just thrilled. The Genovese basil, I guess we started this about 5 weeks ago. These basil plants don't seem to be doing as well as this one here did in its first 5 weeks. But I was thinking about that the other day, and you know, that kind of makes sense. I'm putting the same 2 capfuls of nutrients in every 2 weeks, and they've got to compete with this monster, which is doing all of this. So they're not going to be getting anywhere near as much of the nutrients as they would have. Just if everything started at the same time. Speaking of time, that's still happily growing away in the back there. We've harvested it for a couple of spaghetti sauces, and I may have mentioned this before, but the fish really seem to enjoy this, much like the oregano. They just mow it down, so it's been disappearing that way. But yeah, so far, you know, this Thai basil here has done the same as the other one. It's going to seed right away, which is a little disappointing because once it kind of goes to flower, the leaves lose a lot of the intensity of flavor. So there's that. I've been dealing with that on this one, yeah, since it was about 5 weeks old as well. And it's now 10 weeks old because it was started with the bad brains. So was going to do a taste testing on the basils. Might as well get that dealt with. Here we have the AeroGarden basil. Looking at it, it looks like it's got a much broader leaf than the one in the cup here, but you know, it's about how does it taste really. Tastes pretty good. There's that sort of a licoricey flavor that goes along with this that I really like. I should have brought a lemon wedge or something to clean my palate. But yeah, tastes pretty good. Fresh greens are always good. I would totally throw that in a salad. Yeah, okay, so let me get one from the soil plant here. So if I go a little further down, this is about the same size as that other one. So we shall see how it is. Alright, well, might as well just get to it, right? I would almost say that the one in the soil has a, I want to say a sharper flavor, a little more distinct. And that could be because it gets a little more stress. You know, the one in the AeroGarden Elite there, it's always got water. Whereas the one in the Solo Cup, occasionally it's going to dry out a little bit. I'm trying to be on top of watering up here, but it's going to dry out a little bit, so that could explain the intensity there. They're both really good though. So, which one's better? I'm going to have to say the one in the Solo Cup is better. I prefer an intense flavor to my basil. Anyway, let's take a look at the transplants that came out of that AeroGarden Classic. And yeah, I want to show you how they're doing because I'm pretty impressed with that, like I said. So we'll pull a few of these out in a second and take a closer look. But I was counting earlier, there are 39 of these suckers under these two LED shop lights. And these ones here, I'd like to get them a little bit closer to the lights themselves. But the boxes that I have available, not quite the right size. So they're just going to have to stretch a little bit. As I was saying up at the AeroGardens though, there are a few fungus gnats that have found their way into the room. But so far, fingers crossed, touch wood, still running in an aphid-free environment. Pretty sure this is one of the Caribbean Reds, yeah. They seem to have a much more of a wrinkled leaf, whereas these yellow habs have kind of a flatter one. So getting to the point where I can sort of tell them apart, but they both, with the original transplants anyway, are starting to produce a little bit of flower nodes. So these are going to be so ready once the 1st of June rolls around. Balance, I've got to get rid of this shag carpet. But look at that, we've split at the top. A little tiny flower start in there, do you see that? That's fantastic. So pretty much all 21 from the first transplant out have all started to produce those little nubs. Things are grooving right along there. In the back we've got that one Bad Brains pepper. Let's see if I can get it out without knocking anybody else over. Ripped a leaf off apparently. You know how that goes. But this is definitely forked again. We've got some discoloration going on some of the lower leaves here. Hopefully that won't be too much of an issue though. Someone suggested nutrient burn, like maybe I was putting too much of the nutrient solution in there, so I've cut it down to about half strength, and it gets watered with the same things as everything else does here. And basically once a week these guys are getting just regular water, and once a week they're getting water with the Miracle Grow AeroGarden stuff in it. I'm going to have to find a replacement solution for that soon. And I can't get Master Blend in Canada, but I do appreciate the suggestion because I know it's coming. But yeah, so the Bad Brains is starting to put on some flower buds. It's curving over like it's actually going to do something for me. that's really exciting. I'm going to have to pick from these peppers fairly soon and decide who gets to stay and who's going outside. Because yeah, June 1st, it's time to start transitioning some of these plants. And like I've said before, once they go out, they are not coming back in. Really nice little forest of pepper plants though. Seems like there's so many of them, but yeah, there's only 39. I was kind of joking, going, well, I could get myself a, what is it, a 1x12 or whatever to go across there, and a couple more of these cubes, and a couple more of these shop lights. I could have 78 little pepper plants in this square footage, as it were. It'd be alright, and maybe for next year, but looks like this is what I've got. There are those few peppers downstairs that I will be moving out, but they don't look anywhere near as pretty as these do they? Looks like it's going to be the year of the habaneros come summer, but I am totally okay with that. We do have a few, like the Butch Tea Reds, and the one in the back there, this is also a Butch Tea Red, much nicer looking of the three. But yeah, a couple of Bahuchalokia scorpions downstairs, and almost wish I had waited a little bit longer to plant those, and once I actually had the AeroGarden, so that they'd be looking, well, like this, right? But whatever. As always, looking forward, 2020 vision, as they say. Starting next year's garden plans already, and I think it's gonna be fun. Because my goal is I want to pick the prettiest of each variety of plant and keep them up here. Ideally not necessarily fruiting, but just growing. Fruit is great too though. Don't mind having fresh peppers around. And then I want to take clones and put them in the AeroGarden for next year, and hopefully have, 5 of this, 5 of that, 5 of the other thing. Have a much more organized and yet varied selection without having to worry about the seeds and just weak plants. So yeah, it's gonna be really interesting watching this room evolve, watching some of these peppers go outside, and the few that do get to stay. Anyway, I'm just babbling at this point, so I guess we will look between the lights as I say thank you all so much for joining me, looking at what's growing on upstairs in the bear's den, my little AeroGarden project, because everything you see growing in this room started in one or t'other of them AeroGardens. Alright, we'll be back again on Sunday taking a look at what's growing downstairs. Like I say, it's nowhere near as impressive as all this, but it's a start.